9 from Paul Joseph Watson. Leaked 1955 Bilderberg docs outline a plan for a single European currency. And he points out the global elite spoke of the agenda to create the euro nearly 40 years before it was first codified in the 1992 Maastricht Treaty. Now, the interesting thing is they are calling it a European Union. They are calling it a treaty. We have achieved essentially a North American Union through a North American Free Trade Agreement. They always like to make it a little bit more subversive for us. I guess the Europeans are not quite as suspicious, but we do have a lot of people in America that are dumbed down enough, I guess, that they wouldn't understand the difference between a union and a trade treaty. But going back and looking at the history of this, it's very interesting to see how they brought this in gradually. And of course, as Alex pointed out, the same people that had the Bilderberg had all these other different groups, like the Trilateral Commission. We're going to talk about Zbigniew Brzezinski and how he outlined how they would move gradually to global governance when we come back. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We've had Alex Jones popping in and co-hosting with me today. He also has a report that we're going to get to about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP. What's going on with that? Of course, a lot of people are starting to wake up and understand that we shouldn't have government conducted in secret. And that's precisely the fundamental issue about these so-called partnerships that are being negotiated right now. It's a total outrage. But this has been going on for a very long time. It's been going on for decades with groups like the Bilderberg Group. That's precisely the core problem with the Bilderberg Group, that they could meet secretly between government and corporations and the military and the intelligence services, that they could have these private meetings where we now know, looking at some of the documents that have come out, that they planned the European Union, the euro single currency, many other things that have come out. We understand that these are things that have been crafted together in secret by corporations working with government, the largest corporations working with government. It's no longer a conspiracy theory. It's pretty obvious what's going on now because we are in the final stages of what they've been working on for many, many decades. Of course, the first Bilderberg meeting was 61 years ago. 60 years ago, they created the plan for the European Union and the euro. Now, on the way to cover Bilderberg, we have Rob Dew and Josh Owens are headed out. He just filed a report about their trip at the airport, talking to people, see if they understand even now what's going on with the Bilderberg Group. Here's that report.
Rob Dew reporting for Infowars.com. We are in O'Hare International Airport. We have about a 3-hour layover before we get on the flight going to Austria. We're actually going to make a stop in Frankfurt, Germany, and then head into Austria, but covering this year's Bilderberg. So while we were here at 3 hours, had some time to think, I got to read a few articles. There's one written by, or I guess co-written by Christine Jimenez, and she's talking about one of the people who will be coming to this year's Bilderberg, a Eduardo Barroso, who is the Prime Minister of Portugal, who's also head of the steering committee. Interestingly enough, he was invited to a couple Bilderberg meetings before he became Prime Minister. So that's a theme we see a lot of these elites getting invited to these things. They kind of get sniffed out to see if they're going to do what they're told, and then they get high positionship. He's also on the steering committee of Bilderberg, and he was Prime Minister of Portugal. Another thing that is really interesting is Alex is talking about how we're kind of 10 years ahead of what normal people think. Not a lot of people know what Bilderberg is, and I bet I could ask anyone here what it is. In fact, I'm going to ask this fellow right here. Follow me over here. Hey, sir, do you know what the Bilderberg Group is?
No.
You never heard of it?
No.
What do you think it would be?
A group, probably singers.
That's pretty close. Let me tell you this. It's a group of elites between 120 and 150 that are going to get together in Austria this weekend, or this next week, and discuss world policy, but they do it all in secret. Now, do you think if 150 rock stars or movie stars got together somewhere, there'd be press everywhere and people would be interested in it?
I think so.
Yeah, so that's what's interesting about the Bilderberg Group is it's total secrecy. They've got about 3,000 cops that are going to guard this elite hotel in the middle of nowhere in the Austrian Alps. Some of which, there's an elite commando group called Cobra that will also be helping out with the security. What do you think of that?
What's his name had to do with anything, really?
Well,
Cobra.
Well, because that was also the archenemy of G.I. Joe. I think it's very interesting that there's an elite group of... They're also headquartered in a castle, which is also interesting. But This is elected officials that go to this, also billionaires, business owners, just really high-level people in Western Europe, United States, and Canada get together. Some of our elected officials have been there. Did you know Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama actually went to it in 2012?
No, I didn't know that.
Rick Perry's been to it as well, and I think he went in Turkey back in 2007 or 8.
I don't know who's Rick Perry.
Rick Perry was the governor of Texas for a long time. He's also a presidential candidate.
Okay.
So where are you from?
I'm from Ohio.
Ohio?
Yes.
Okay. So do you think an event like this, where you have 150 elites getting together in Western Europe, basically discussing things in secret, do you think we should know about this?
I think so.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, hey, thanks for your time. Good luck to you. Have a good one. All right, there you go. So we asked a person here. He had no idea who the Bilderberg Group was, but what did? We educated him. So that's what I'm going to challenge you to do out there, is go out and make this the week that you talk about Bilderberg. I'm on a basketball team, and we went and had a couple beers last week after a game, and I told guys I'm not going to be making the next game. I'm going to Austria. And they're like, what for? I said, I'm going to be covering the Bilderberg Group. And they all laughed. They go, Bilderberg? No. See, that's why we have to get beyond this whole thing of what the name is. It's built the Bilderberg Group, and you need to go out and talk about it. Tell your friends about it. Tell your neighbors about it. Just start opening the discourse, and that way, things like this we'll slowly start shedding light on them, because that's what needs to happen. We need to stop having secret meetings run by elites where they're elected, they're using our tax dollars to pay for security, all this crazy madness, yet no press is allowed, or the press that is allowed is kept and controlled. Well, that's about it. We're about to get on our flight. It's going to be a long one, so I may not be as chipper next time you see me. This is Rob Dew reporting from O'Hare International Airport for Infowars.com and Infowars Nightly News.
Again, that's a very difficult trip to make, and of course they're going to be on the ground and covering what's happening as soon as they get there. So it's a difficult thing for them. It's a difficult thing for us to support them. So again, if you want to support us in that operation, buy our products at InfoWarsLife.com. Also, we have the new T-shirt that is the Distress T-shirt, the Save America T-shirt, where you can tell people about about Title IV, Chapter 1 of the U.S. Code regarding the flag. Get them to understand that flying it upside down is not disrespect. It's actually trying to inform people. This is a way that you can start to inform people about the distress that our government is currently under. Many people don't understand what's going on with these trade treaties, with the massive reorganization of our country and other countries into global governance. We've seen the pieces from Rex Jones. We've seen pieces from others where they go here in Austin or go in New York and they ask people, what is the TPP? They have no clue what that is. They have no clue what Bilderberg is. These people who are protesting the G7 that's going on right now in Bavaria, not far from where the Bilderberg Group is going to be meeting. And again, I had quotes from a 16-year-old, also from a 61-year-old. They understood what the issue was. I'm going to read you one more quote here from a guy who was a mathematician who showed up to protest. And this is what he said. He said these secret trade agreements that are being negotiated by corporations without any oversight, without any knowledge, really, of our elected representatives, he says this is all a question of legitimacy. He says if laws and regulations are made in private, it limits the possibility of overseeing what the politicians do, obviously. He says it seems the only people overseeing are those who stand to gain by the process, big business. This is what's been going on for a very long time at Bilderberg. And so it is no surprise to us to see that this is going to converge into a global governance now. Go back to the very beginning of Bilderberg. Why do they call it that? Well, that was the name of the hotel where they first met. Interestingly enough, that hotel, the Bilderberg Hotel, where they first met, was very close to the site of the last Nazi victory of World War II. You might have seen the story of that in the movie Bridge Too Far. Now, some people have accused Prince Bernhard and others who created the Bilderberg Group and who held that meeting at the closest as they could get to the site of the last Nazi victory. Some people have accused them of being double agents, of collaborating with the Nazis to help in that last Nazi victory. Nevertheless, what it did was it laid an economic foundation for global governance, and that's the way they do it gradually. Going back to this article that I started talking about, that is essentially 6 years and 1 month old, from Paul Joseph Watson. Leaked 1955 Bilderberg documents outline a plan for a single European currency. And he points out that the documents that they saw that were leaked by WikiLeaks from the 1955 Bilderberg Group conference that was held in Germany, showed an agenda to create a European Union and a Central European currency decades before they were introduced. And so he points out that although they might have been talking about creating an economic trade group, he said the idea of doing a currency first appeared at Bilderberg. Even if you could say that they were responding to something that was out there already in terms of a common trade area. But what it shows is that they moved gradually through a European Economic Commission, then coming into the European Community, then moving into the treaty. And now we see many people in Europe saying that the Greek financial tragedy is going to require a surrendering of sovereignty in order to make the EU and the Euro work. Stay with us. We're going to be right back, and we're going to go into more detail about this and the roots of these transnational agreements. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and I'm co-hosting today with Alex Jones. Alex is going to be joining us in this hour with a report about the TPP and the TTIP and the TPA. We've also got the TISA that came out this week. Is that confusing? It's meant to be confusing. Here's what you need to know. All of those together spell TRAP. It's a trap, okay? Quite frankly, it's a trap. It's a trap that has been prepared for a very long time. We were talking in the last hour about the roots of this, about the Bilderberg Group. We have our reporters are headed there right now. We just played a report in the last segment that's filed by Rob Dew in a layover at the airport. Of course, they're on their way to Bilderberg. As we see, most people don't know what Bilderberg is. Most people don't know what any of those different acronyms are that are basically destroying our sovereignty, not only for the United States, but for the entire world. These are all tools of global consolidation, tools of global governance by multinational corporations. This is not about free trade. This is not about protecting small corporations that are domestic. This is about putting a few corporations who are writing these regulations in secret. It's about putting them in charge of everything. And it's not just simply about trade. This is about owning everything, and it's going to affect your health. It's going to affect your internet freedoms. It's going to affect the sovereignty of each individual nation. I want to cover a couple of stories before we go back to the Bilderberg Group, because some of the people who listen to the show, some of them are covering news during this segment. So I want to wait until all the radio stations are back, but I want to give you a sense of how, as they make what they do more and more secret, whether it's the Bilderberg Group or whether it's now these new trade partnerships, everything is kept secret, but they demand to know everything about you. Look at this article from the Washington Post about the FBI. Now, of course, we had the FBI's director, Comey, come out and say, well, you know, it's a good thing to have encryption, even though the government needs to have the ability to get around it, is what he said. So, yeah, go ahead and encrypt your stuff, but not for the government. Now we have the assistant director at the FBI's counterterrorism division, a man named Steinbach. And he came out with some very troubling, well, it's something that we already knew, quite frankly, but at least the candor is out there. And I think even the Washington Post was a bit surprised, raised a little bit of an eyebrow when they reported this. They say FBI official says companies should help us, quote, prevent encryption above all else, unquote. That's what the FBI's assistant director for FBI counterterrorism said. He says we need to build technological solutions to prevent encryption above all else. In other words, their highest priority is to be able to know everything about you. And we see this manifested in many different ways. We see this with the dragnet surveillance of the NSA. We also see it even with what's going on with Jade Helm. Jade Helm is about mastering the human domain. If you go back and look at what that phrase means, you see at conferences for the geospatial intelligence community, where that is the title of the presentation, Mastering the Human Domain. How do they propose to do that? They will master you as an individual by knowing everything about you individually, about your name, your identity, your biometrics, then knowing who you know, knowing where you go, what you do, and putting all of those into a political context, putting them into a religious context, putting them into a racial context, profiling you in every way possible. A very dangerous thing, but that is the plan. That is where they are going with all of this. Now, again, listen to this other quote from Steinbach. Again, he is the assistant director of FBI's counterterrorism. He says, privacy